we felt that Yamuna, okay, like मेरी माँ कोमा में है because एक अखबार में पढ़ा दिल्ली के कि they checked BOD levels and oxygen levels and at 16 locations in Delhi, and the result was that there's 0% oxygen in Yamuna ji. So if there's 0% oxygen in any living thing, it's actually considered to be dead.
So we have to understand that what the nature has provided as water resources, and then as the development took place, we kept on imposing more and more demand. First of all, we started having the civilizations around the river systems because we wanted to produce food and we wanted to have many other things taken care of, whether the domestic water use or the industrial, as the industry started becoming more and more progressive. And then we also kept on imposing the demands of various kinds, including the population growth.
First of all, Pranam, Namaste. Well, we are all gathered here because of one and only important aspect, thanks to Neeraj, who has been absolutely aggressive and unstoppable in getting this moment up and running. And I think even if we have 100 stadiums full, it is insufficient because water is that precious resource without which none of the civilizations would have existed. None of us would have been existing even today. So let me read what I had written for World Water Day several years ago. And I think it's even more relevant, pertinent, and important at this juncture. So if water, as just now Neeraj said, it should be a living body to be recognized. And I had written just this about the same as if water had a voice, what would it say? How would it speak? And if it could speak to humans today and in the coming decades, it would say, please use me responsibly. Take care of me, without which you don't have a planet to survive on. And so is Yamuna. It's just not about Delhi. We live in a land, a fertile land, wherein three major fault lines run through this country. Right from one end, the Shivaliks range, to our Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, that's 2,500 kilometers. That's the fault lines that we live on. And if we do not think that this small, one of the rivers in India does not make a difference, I implore you, beseech you to think again. And more than think, act responsibly. That's what water would say. We could look at it from several different perspectives, but prominently two, would stand in front of you. One would be the climate change, which you think that, somewhere in Ladakh is happening, somewhere in the Himalayas it's happening, or in the oceans where Delhi is too far away. Are we? How much amount of the food comes from all of these ecosystems? And I deliberately talk about food because the rivers carry them to the ocean brings back to these ecosystems, and what we consume from there, we have every single element in the form of food. And if you think it's only the food that we consume, what about air we breathe? Is another food also. But when we talk about climate change, and what's one of the major contributors to climate change? Don't we think it's pollution as well? And that's what the water would say again. You arrogant humans, you irresponsible humans, including me as well. How dare you abuse me? How dare you irresponsibly use me? How dare you run me dry? I think one of the professors or the esteemed gentleman who spoke about the anthropological journey of water, especially the Yamuna from Y1 to Y2, Y3, Y4, from the Holocenic period to where we are today, mentioned about the course changes. How did the direction change from westward to eastward? Or today it's southeast rather. How does it happen? Are we contributing to it? Are we all responsible for it as well? And you could put your hands on your hearts and say, yes, we are. Because we are the supposedly highest intellectual species on this planet, which I have a very hard time swallowing it. Because I don't think we are. There are other systems, there are other species that might be far more superior intelligent than us. And we have got the intelligence in one direction. In about a few centuries, we have managed to take any system, take the Amazons, take our rivers, and if you think it doesn't happen in the US, have a reality check. And people are watching from the US, get it from me with the first-hand work that I have done in the US as well. And right here in Yamuna, my connection with Yamuna is even more deeper. The work that we did in Bangalore through Bangalore Water Foundation, which I co-founded in 2003, Sheila Dikshit, the then chief minister here, who I have utmost respect for, had also passed laws which are, same very IITian from here, blow it into smithereens. Talk about irresponsibility to the highest order. So she had wanted us to come in and do the same work what we had done in Bangalore to clean up the river system here back in 2003, 2004, which we, after a few sittings, we decided not to come because we don't play politics, we play water. That being said, are we ready? Are we ready today? Else, you would have to possibly cut off to the feet of the water mafia to even get a single good, pure lifeline that's water into your houses. With that question pondering above your head and in your thoughts, I would say thank you and be responsible. Take care of your water systems. Jayan.
Namaskar, everyone. 5 years ago, I was in Mathura during the COVID, and that's when my first interaction with Yamuna ji took place. And it's not what the nation can do for you, what you can do for the nation. So from this thought, it occurred that what we can do for Yamuna ji, and as an individual, and not just sitting and complaining and doing hartals and writing letters. And so what dimag mein bas ke aaya ki let's do a padayatra. So we started off from Yamunotri. It's a barefoot padayatra that we did under this banner of Project Atmanirbhar. It's a society that was created by me. And then we took people from Yamunotri, the Purohits from there, and some people from Mathura. And the concept was that we felt that Yamuna, okay, like meri maa coma mein hai, because ek akhbar mein padha Delhi ke ki they checked BOD levels and oxygen levels and at 16 locations in Delhi, and the result was that there's 0% oxygen in Yamuna ji. So if there's 0% oxygen in any living thing, it's actually considered to be dead. So it occurred that if she's on a ventilator in coma, then we need to give her some therapy. So like a stem cell therapy, or blood infusion chahiye, so it has to be the same blood group. So we went to Yamunotri, we took a kalash, usme Yamuna ji ka jal dala, and then we walked. And there were about like 40 of us. There were about 16 Purohits from Yamunotri and the rest from Mathura. So Yamuna ji ka maika or sasural, dono cover ho gaya. And then we went to Yamunotri and we said, usme braj ki raj lekar ke gaye the. So because braj ki raj, braj raj ud mastak lage mukti mukt mukt hai jaye kehte hain. So we took braj raj, usko Yamuna ji mein prabahit kiya और Yamuna ji ka jal liya braj lane ke liye. दोनों का मिलन करना था. So we walked and we walked alongside Shri Yamuna ji, पूरा ऊपर से लेकर के जब तक नीचे आए तब तक 40-42 degrees था. So we used to walk barefoot in the heat. पैर भी फट गए थे सब कुछ. Then we met नीरा जी in Delhi, जहाँ पर हमने कृष्ण कालिंदी विवाह किया पहली बार, जो भागवत में mentioned है. गए जाकर के श्री यमुना जी में सब लोग एक एक लोटिया में जल लेकर के चले थे, तो श्री यमुना जी में अर्पण किया. Then ये सोचा कि देखो यमुना जी एक जल का एक स्तोत्र है और दुनिया में हम पढ़ रहे थे उस समय पर, अखबार में भी आ रहा था, world's most polluted air Delhi, world's most polluted river Yamuna, world's most polluted ocean front Mumbai. So I was like, Ranjit, जीवन में अगर कुछ करने का है तो मिशन बड़ा बनाओ और डिवाइन मिशन बनाओ, काम करना है तो देवताओं के लिए करो. सो वी वर लाइक यमुना जी का काम करेंगे, उसके बाद में वरुण देव का काम करेंगे ओशंस का, और उसके बाद में काम करेंगे वायुदेव का, हवा का. सो वहां से शुरू हुआ. फिर हमने यमुना छठ मनाया, जो चैत्र नवरात्रि का जो छठा दिन होता है कात्यायनी का. एंड देन वी डिड a lot of advocacy. We did प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने मेयर्स कॉन्फ्रेंस में बोला था बनारस में कि हर शहर जिसके अंदर से नदी बह करके जाती है उनको नदी उत्सव बनाना चाहिए. तो हमने महानदी यमुना महोत्सव बनाया. फिर हमने यमुना दिव्य उत्सव बनाया एक साल, जिसमें हम दिव्यांग बच्चों को लेकर के, देयर वर अबाउट 250 दिव्यांग children who walked with us, on wheelchair, और जिनकी आंखें नहीं है, जो सुन नहीं सकते हैं, and they were all holding placards. ऐसा था कि मथुरा में लोगों की भावना जगे यमुना जी के प्रति. फिर दिव्य उत्सव बनाया. उसके बाद में हमने वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड सेट किया एनसीसी को लेकर के, यूपी बटालियन 11 के साथ में. हमको पता था जन्माष्टमी पर 25 लाख लोग आ रहे हैं मथुरा. सो वी वर लाइक 25 लाख लोग आएंगे तो कितना कचरा करके जाएंगे. सो वी सेट अ वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड विद इन 2.5 days. We covered Mathura Vrindavan के almost 6,000 shops on foot, and we went, उन सबको pledge करवाया, उन सबके यहाँ पर स्टिकर लगाया, and that was recognized by the International Book of Records. उसके बाद में DGNCC ने यहाँ पर उसका संज्ञान लिया, and then पूरा NCC दिल्ली में खड़ा हो गया उसके लिए. So advocacy, campaigning, लोगों की awareness, cultural connect, यमुना जी का जो लोगों से छूटा हुआ है. Many people in Delhi, when I used to move around in the taxis and everything, I was like, आपको पता है कि यमराज की बहन कौन है? So people didn't know. I was like, यमुना जी है, उसको गंदा करते हो, अगर आप दिल्ली वालों को पता चलेगा तो क्या करेंगे? उन्होंने बोला, सर कोई भी कचरा नहीं फेंकेगा वहां पर. So एक cultural connect करना था. अब जो श्री यमुना जी का सब काम चल रहा है, जो नीरा जी कह रही हैं, बहुत लोग ने यमुना जी का बीड़ा उठाया है. तो अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं? वी आर मेकिंग यमुना वैली द वर्ल्ड्स फर्स्ट हर्बल आयुर्वेदिक वैली. सो वी ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड विद 1000 women in from खरसाली, यमुनोत्री टू विकास नगर. 1000 औरतें हमारे साथ जुड़ी हुई हैं. हम लोगों ने पिछले साल इस मिशन का शंखनाद किया था, where we are picking up 62 medicinal plants. योगा गंगा जी के किनारे पर पहुंच ही गया है. सो चार धाम का एक नया मीनिंग देना है कि पहले आप निरोगी बनिए यमुना जी के पास आकर के, फिर आप योगी बनिए गंगा जी के पास जाके, केदार बाबा के पास जाइए तपस्वी बनने के लिए, और जब तपस्या पूर्ण हो जाए तब बद्री बाबा के पास जाकर के मोक्ष की प्राप्ति करिए. सो वी हैव ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड विद सर्पगंधा एंड अश्वगंधा. वी हैव साइंड एन MOU विद द हिमालय ब्रांड. वी अटेंडेड द वर्ल्ड आयुर्वेदा कांग्रेस in December in Dehradun last year. 62 medicinal plants we are going to be growing. We started with 1,000 women. Aim is to include 10,000 women, 29 different villages, 3 agroclimatic zones, 62 medicinal plants. So अब ये मिशन चालू है to preserve यमुना जी in the mountains. So यहाँ पर अब सरकार, IITs, प्रोफेसर्स, साइंटिस्ट, सिविल सोसाइटी मेंबर्स, सब लोग अब यमुना जी का कर रहे हैं. अब थोड़ा ऊपर भी मेहनत करनी है. अब हम श्री वरुण के काम पर लग रहे हैं. वो जो शंख लेकर के आए हैं, हम चाहते हैं कि इंडिया इज अमंग्स द टॉप 5 polluters फॉर द ओशंस. इंडोनेशिया, चाइना, इंडिया. हमारा कचरा जो हम ओशन में डालते हैं, मैं बॉम्बे में रहता हूँ, सो आई सी, and I live right next to Juhu Beach. So we've seen what happens every monsoon कि मिट्टी के ऊपर एक 3 इंच की प्लास्टिक की एक लेयर आ जाती है. So now we're going to focus a little bit on Varuna, oceans, and then उसके बाद में वायु, air pollution के ऊपर. So that's who we are, Project Atmanirbhar. On the other side, I'm an industrialist, and I do engineering and government contracts, and I also have an Ayurveda brand. It's called Soup Herb. We've applied for 13 patents and 35 trademarks, so that people can, get back to Super Herb. So soup is a Sanskrit word. It is not a foreign appetizer. Soup is in Manusmriti, in the Ramayana, it is in the Mahabharata, it is in the Kashyap Samhita. So Super is actually an Indian word. So this is what Project Atmanirbhar does, and this is what I do. Thank you very much.
Professor A.K. Gosain, he is a professor of civil engineering at IIT Delhi. He has superannuated a few years back, but he is still very active, and his area of research is water resources engineering. I would request Professor Gosain to enlighten us with his insight into
the woes that is ailing Yamuna.
A very good afternoon to you. Now, the topic of rejuvenation of Yamuna, and for that matter, any river, is at the core of our heart, and we were inducted in the first river basin management plan, which was made for Ganga as a river long back. I think it was initiated in 2011 or 12, and then all the IITs, we joined hands and we looked at in a very detailed manner what we need to do to rejuvenate a river like Ganga. So when we say rejuvenate, these big rivers don't need the rejuvenation of the kind that we talk of smaller rivers. Rejuvenation in this particular case is, we identify two aspects: hydrological health of a river and the environmental health of a river. The hydrological health means that whatever nature provides that river system, and river system gets its natural water resource because of the boundary which is called the basin, that whole land mass is participating in creating a river, because all the rainfall or the precipitation which falls in that area, that contributes to the river. So when we talk in terms of how the river was behaving in the pristine state, that's the first thing which we need to understand. What was the resource becoming available with some variability, which is a natural variability. Every year might not be the same. There might be some good years, some bad years, and some average years. So we have to understand that what the nature has provided as water resources to that basin. And then, as the development took place, we kept on imposing more and more demand. First of all, we started having the civilizations around the river systems because we wanted to produce food and we wanted to have many other things taken care of, whether the domestic water use or the industrial, as the industry started becoming more and more progressive. And then we also kept on imposing the demands of various kinds, including the population growth. Your food production has to be higher. Now, as long as the demand which we impose on the river system is less than its availability, which is allowed for the society to use, there's no problem. We are within the resource availability and we are not creating problems for the river. But the moment it exceeds the availability of the resource, then we start seeing the problems. And you might be seeing that is reflected in the fact that almost all the basins in the country, we have 14 big basins in the country. If we look at the fact that every year you start getting the advisory from the Central Groundwater Board that now these many more blocks have become grey. They are not sustainable anymore. Why this has happened, I think is the point which is very important to understand. Because we have imposed more demand on the basin than its resource availability. So the deficit has come out of the groundwater. So we have, that means all the basins where the groundwater table is going down, our demand is higher than the available resource. And the impact is that groundwater table is going down, which is not sustainable. It cannot go on forever. There will come a time when nothing will be left in the groundwater, which was a storage to be used very judiciously whenever the rain fails. Only then you should have used that storage. And it doesn't stop here, because there's a natural system, there's a groundwater surface water interaction. The perenniality of our river systems, some of those which are not fed by the glaciers and the snow melt, like Yamuna and Ganga and Brahmaputra and Indus. All the other systems which are perennial, they are perennial because the groundwater appreciates during the monsoon period, and once it goes to a level where the gradient is there between the river and the groundwater table, it starts getting a consistent supply of water, which we call base water, the base flow. So in most of the systems where the groundwater table has gone down, we have created a reversal of the process, natural process, where the groundwater table is lower than the river level, and the river is losing water to the groundwater. So the rivers are also getting dry because of that, which most of the people don't understand, because unless you do the scientific analysis, it's not visible to anybody. So the same thing has happened to a river like Yamuna. We were very eager to divert all the waters of Yamuna by making a barrage, which was earlier Tajewala. Now it is at Hatnikund. And we have diverted the low flows of the Yamuna River into eastern and western Yamuna Canal. With the result, there is no water left for the downstream side of the river below the Hatnikund barrage. There was a time when we started taking the cognizance of environmental flows, that the river and its biodiversity needs some water for its own survival and feeding or providing the habitat to the biodiversity, which we call the environmental flow. Now the situation is that even if we leave that environmental flow, we enforce on the government or the Upper Yamuna board that they have to release water at the Hatnikund into the river Yamuna, which was termed as the environmental flow, which was quantified as the minimum of around 250 cusecs of water. If now you leave that water, I can give you the guarantee that that water is still not going to reach Delhi, because the groundwater table in the state of Haryana is so low that all that water is going to go to the groundwater because the groundwater table has fallen down. So we have created a situation when we talk of the rejuvenation of the river, unless we bring back the groundwater table, which is not going to happen overnight, is going to have policies which will ensure that your demand is lower than the availability, which is sustainable. So you will build the demand, we will build this groundwater table over the years, and you have to find ways and means by which you can do it. Now, what are the ways and means? I won't recommend the rainwater harvesting as the option. That is not a good option. By doing the rainwater harvesting, you are only moving water. You're not generating any water. You are moving from upstream to the downstream to the upstream. And that's what we are doing through the watershed management kind of programs. If you really want to bring this rejuvenation aspects into a good end products, you have to do the demand management. And the demand management means you have to enhance the water use efficiency of your water use. If you are talking in terms of the agriculture demand, which is around 85%, 80 to 85% of the total water demand, and we are using this with the efficiency of around 30 to 35%. So if we enhance, it's possible to enhance this water use efficiency by changing your methods of irrigation. If you do that, your efficiency of the water use can easily come to around 60 to 65%. So by doing this, you have doubled the quantity of water which is available. Now this available water you can use for providing it to the river or doing many other things which are within the availability of your resource. Similarly, you have to do at the level of urban areas by reusing your sewage after treating it for some non-potable purposes. So all these aspects are the ones which have to be promoted, not the rainwater harvesting. I've heard some other industries saying that now we have become water positive. Nobody can become water positive. You're not generating any water. Okay. So I think this is only the quantity side. So you have to start understanding the surface water groundwater interaction, build the groundwater up to a level where your rejuvenation automatically happens. When you get the recharge into the groundwater appreciates. Some water will come to the river, and that's the only way, only mechanism. It might take 10 years, it might take 15 years. So all the other methods are not going to be as beneficial as this one is, the demand management. Similarly, the water quality is another aspect. What we are doing to the Yamuna in the stretch which is in Delhi, we have to take actions in terms of putting pressure on the municipalities that they should do a good job of handling the sewage, whether it's DJP or whether it's any other organization in any other city, and not send the sewage to the river where it has many other issues of contaminating the groundwater and killing all the biodiversity which is not able to flourish anymore. So we have to do the environmental flows rejuvenation, the water quality rejuvenation in terms of ensuring that all your STPs which are there. So in Delhi, I don't know how many people are aware of the NGT order of 2015. It was 13th January 2015, the main bench order. I was actually working at that time with Justice Satwantra Kumar, and most of the aspects in that order are what we had discussed and what I felt. Because at one time, even now, many of the people in Delhi feel that the only way we can take care of the pollution of Yamuna in Delhi is by diverting all the nalas which are falling into Yamuna, taking it somewhere and having a big interceptor sewer which can take hold of all the sewage and not letting it go into the Yamuna River. That is not a solution. And I had taken around 4 months' time to convince Justice Satwantra Kumar that what will happen of the other mini Yamunas which are spread all over Delhi. You will be surprised to know that Delhi has 200 natural segments of natural drains which are supposed to be stormwater drains, and now we have converted them into sewage drains. So this particular order was defined in such a manner that we had given the AECOM, which was the consultant to the DJP, in putting together the sewerage master plan of Delhi, which was supposed to be completed by 2030. So that sewerage master plan in 2015, they had said it'll take 20 years to implement, which is already the time has passed. And they had said that it'll take a lot of money. So we had redefined that objective of the sewerage master plan. We said that you have designed all the sewerage lines, and the only problem they were facing was that there were around 1,500 unregulated or the clusters which are unauthorized colonies in Delhi. So they said it's very difficult to put the sewer lines in those. That's why it's going to take a lot of time. So I said, let's redefine our objective. Our objective is that no sewage should go into any of the natural drains in the city, which are around 200 natural drains. And there was an affidavit taken at that time by NGT that all these 200 natural drains are carrying sewage every day, day and night. So we said, don't let any of the sewage go from unauthorized colony into any of the stormwater drain. Trap it there, and whatever you had designed, take it through that into the nearest the sewer line. By doing that, your stormwater drains will be clean of sewage, and once they are clean, then Yamuna is automatically clean. So that is the order which is still not fully being implemented, but I think if you put your heads together, you can find solutions which are sustainable. It's a question of only implementation. So if we really want to rejuvenate the rivers like Yamuna, we have to ensure that we build the hydrology back to what it was earlier, which is not going to happen overnight. I think I can challenge that. It's not an easy task, but it has to be done through regulations. There has to be regulation of the groundwater abstraction, and that can only happen if you do the demand management of the agriculture, which is possible by investing. The government should invest in change of methods of irrigation. It shouldn't be flooding, which needs a lot of groundwater. And also at the same time, start handling your pollution, the domestic pollution and the industrial pollution properly. Then I can assure you that the rivers, any rivers, and for that matter, Yamuna also can be properly rejuvenated, and we can make it sustainable for all times to come. We had also done a recent, very detailed analysis of the project is called the Water Security of Delhi, where we have analyzed all forms of water, all the systems related with water, and we have made that available to people like NMCG, how to monitor whatever you are implementing on the ground, how to do the monitoring. Because unless we monitor, unless we make sure that whatever was the objective of that spending the public money, how much you have achieved and where you have failed. So you have to do that learning, and that is where we had given them in the form of portals which can be visible to general public. Let the public get associated and involved in this process, and let them put pressure and let them also understand what is happening. Only then we can, as a society, we can make these things happen. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Water harvesting is not a solution. Now, when you're talking of water harvesting, we have survived. River needs its natural water harvesting systems to give it the supplementary support of water. That is, we had the kuas and we had the talabs. Because we have destroyed our kuas and talabs, the government is finding an alternative way, but water harvesting is not, they're just storing the rainwater. So they are, in a way, storing water means saving water is getting more water. So why are you against water harvesting? Because it is not, you said they're not creating water. Nobody can create water. Nobody can create water. We have to make sure that the water harvesting is there so that the underground replenishment channel of the river gets a boost, and gradually that it is happening in many places with these little ponds and things being revived, the water is flowing towards the river. So can you just...
I think I need to elaborate on this, because when we say water harvesting, the trouble is that we are looking at all the mechanisms of the watershed management of storing water in situ. Whether we are making the tunnel, the trenches and doing the other mechanisms which are there, or having the check dams. What is happening is that if you are doing that, you are stopping this water which was earlier going downstream as a routine before you put these check dams. See, watershed management program is okay if you are not overdoing it. The problem starts when you overdo it. We have analyzed many areas where there are big reservoirs or big irrigation tanks in south, where the water was earlier coming and they were filling up, and it was being used by the farmers for irrigating. Now you have done so much intervention in the catchment of those water bodies, whether it's a reservoir or whether it's a tank, that water has stopped coming. So you are, in a way, you are destroying those existing projects for taking up these additional watershed management programs. So what I have been telling the Ministry of Rural Development, for each basin or for each smaller sub-catchment or the sub-basin, you have to define how much watershed management should be allowed. So you have to have a trade-off. How much should be allowed, and beyond that, it should not be detrimental to the projects, existing projects. So you cannot take it to any level. It cannot be made free for all. So that is my only, I'm not against it. Yes, if you have surplus water somewhere, which is going downstream and all the existing projects are not being hampered, they're not being having ill effect, go ahead, but you have to define what is, and each basin has a different character. If you're doing one thing in a basin which has a lot of rainfall, it has a different character. If you are doing the same thing in another one, it has a different character. Its response will be different. So I'm saying that you have to use science. You have to use, these days we have the mathematical models which can tell you beforehand, without implementing, that what will be the impact of your actions. If you do that, then it'll be much easier. Right now, we don't have any mechanism of stopping anybody. Government is providing money for the watershed management program, and everybody feels, all the NGOs feel that they are doing a very good job, because they cannot be blamed, because nobody has analyzed at a bigger picture that what is the overall impact of all these interventions collectively. So that is my only difference of. Okay. So it has to be done in a manner where you have to analyze, you have to prove it that whatever you are doing is not going to be injuring the interest of others who are also dependent on the same water, is the same resource. So you have to, there can be competing objectives, but ultimately somebody has to take care of the judicious use of water for everybody, whosoever is in the community, in the society. That is the only way. Otherwise, we might create more problems as the water will become less and less, is going to create more issues. And I didn't touch upon the climate change implications. Now, if we look at the climate change implications, we are doing a lot of work in that in the next, by the end of the century, what is going to be the fate of these systems which are dependent on the glacier melt and the snow melt. Now, if tomorrow your the Yamunotri is a very small glacier in comparison to the other systems of Ganga. Now, if this is vanished, then the Yamuna is not going to have the same situation as we have it now. So you have to really start thinking in terms of what will be the situation at that time and how the society will be managing the water during that period where the sustainability or the perenniality of the Yamuna system as a system is not going to be there. You might not be able to divert any water. The low flow is not going to be there. Till such time that is melting, you might get more water, but once the glacier is gone, you're not going to get that water. So I think these days we are also working on that under the climate change situation, what are the possible adaptation options which the society will have, and how to choose the best one from those options available, which can be really good options. We shouldn't follow any option which is going to be a mal option.
Sensei Raj from Visioneer 2032 and the Global Changemakers Network. My work also has been in the convergence of freshwater systems and also the oceans. I'm a former Navy clearance diver as well. I not just voiced my concerns, but also I would like to add a little evidence of what Neeraj said as well in terms of rainwater harvesting. And I would put it as groundwater recharging. First, I'll start with a statement. I'll take you back to the US, everybody done extensive work in the US as well, where it is by law, you cannot do groundwater recharging even if you own your own ranch in the US, even today, mandated by the Code of Law. Why? Because that is the extent of the pollution which is prevalent in the soil systems in the US. So let's come back to India, where we are at least far ahead of the US in not polluting our soil systems to that extent. Now, the rainwater harvesting / other aspects of groundwater recharging actually supports, assists, and augments the efforts in rejuvenating the river systems, the freshwater systems as well. And in this particular instance, the rivers, which would take an enormous amount of this strain. I could go into the numbers, which we don't have time. But the fundamental fact remains that it does augment, assist, and help in rejuvenating rivers. Number one. Number two is there's a larger meta perspective I think we could bring into the conversation when we talk about river rejuvenation in terms of wetland management and the the integrated river management systems. As you rightly pointed out, there are two aspects of it: the hydrological and the ecological quality of the water itself. But then there are also other aspects, innumerable ones, which we have not factored into our efforts or initiatives. So, are we really myopic? This question is not to you, this particular sentence, but to the stakeholders, the policymakers, the decision makers, as to are we really that myopic and dense to not consider an integrated approach? Because there is a huge, I think, even if we do a 30-day course on this, it is still not enough to the policymakers and stakeholders. And I'll rest my case at this. Your remarks, please.
Thank you. Just a question to all. I have heard Professor Gusai, and do you all think, all the August, gathering, do you think that the water should be sold? That is my question. क्या पानी बिकना चाहिए? ये बस एक सवाल है मेरा. आपके हिसाब से बस आप मुझे ये इसका आंसर अगर आप लोगों में से कोई भी देना चाहे, क्योंकि जिस तरह से पानी बिक रहा है, ये जो भी बातें हम कर रहे हैं, whatever we are talking, it's about Yamuna and everything, but Yamuna is the source of our water, our life in Delhi. We are living in Delhi. So do you think water should be a sellable property or sellable product? According to me, it is a very contested and it is a very marketing and उस तरह का चीज़ है. तो आप लोगों के views जानना चाहूँगी, all the scientists और इन लोगों से. Although I'm a social scientist, so I think a lot.
माइनिंग से क्या पानी के सोर्स पे डिप्लीशन होता है कि नहीं? ग्राउंड वाटर का मेरा सिर्फ इतना प्रश्न है.
I think I'll start with the comment given here. Now, I fully agree that in US, the main reason why they don't let the groundwater recharge to be induced because of the quality issues. But I think in our case, it's slightly different. Here, when people do their rainwater harvesting, wherever they are doing, even including industries, they feel that that is their water which they have harvested. So they will take out double the amount of what they have harvested through the rainwater harvesting, which is not sustainable. What I'm saying is that even if you are inducing the recharge by various means, ensuring that is not polluting the groundwater, you have to still keep a tab. How much you have induced the recharge? Where is the trade-off? How much from the total water which was otherwise going into the river? Because the more you induce, less is going to go into the river. And we can always claim that, yes, in our case, the rivers have surplus water. We are only taking the surplus water. I'll tell you there are many rivers which are closed. They are closer and they have not giving any water into the sea. So all the sea life is already affected because it has come to a closure and there is no flow in the name of excess water. And we are doing the same thing now, having the intra-linking of the rivers in the name of saying that now we have the excess water here and this water is needed for this particular state. We are doing the intra-linking or interlinking. We are going ahead with that, which is not, again, is not advisable because the concept of having some donor basins, like all the Himalayan basins were considered to be donor basins, they are not going to remain donor basins. If they are not going to remain donor basins, then what will happen at that time when you have made the investment and there is no extra water in those rivers? So I think there are many other questions which we can keep on debating, but most of the areas in urban areas where we are doing the rainwater harvesting through the decree that each house which has bigger than 200 square meter of plot, they should go in for rainwater harvesting. I have checked many of them. They have done that to get the certification. After 2 years, they have become defunct and nobody has got it ever cleaned. So what is the use of having such rainwater harvesting in the name of just asking the citizens to put the money? While doing the drainage master plan of Delhi, we had suggested to Delhi government that we should do the rainwater harvesting which is sustainable, which is free of cost. We had recommended to them that Delhi has around more than 1,500 parks. let's depress each park by 1 foot, and all the rooftop water which is coming into the colony, right now, you know where that rooftop water is going? All the people are, where is going? No, is not going into the basement, is not going into your street. Street doesn't have any street level stormwater drain. You won't see any of the colonies. Yeah, so that is, she is right. Everybody has connected the rooftop water to the sewer line without even realizing that when the rain comes in Delhi, the sewer lines which are not designed to take the rooftop water, they get surcharged, and Delhi is getting flooded with the sewage. Not only the rainwater, but they are getting flooded with the sewage. So now if you have the rainwater harvesting of the kind which we are having, all the sewage is going to go down into the groundwater. But what we had recommended that since we don't have the street level drains remaining, you have to give when you ask them to disconnect those connections from the sewer line, you have to give them a good option. So we said that let's take all the stormwater from the rooftop to the nearest park, depress the park by 1 foot, and within a day, within 24 hours or so, the whole water is going to seep into the ground, and that is the rainwater harvesting, which is at no cost. When I was saying that overdoing the rainwater harvesting, I was talking about the watershed management program, where you are spending, in some of the basins, we have millions of check dams put. Nobody has decided that what is the number of check dams which should be the trade-off in that basin. So I'm basically referring to that we are overdoing at many places, which is wrong. I'm not saying that it should be not done at all. It should be done carefully. It should be implemented properly. Even here also, while giving the drainage master plan, we gave them showcase that if you rejuvenate all the water bodies which have lost in Delhi, how much is the reduction in the flooding you will accomplish by doing that? If you desilt your drains, how much reduction in the flooding of many of the hotspots will be done? We had done the simulation and gave it to them, but it has never been implemented because Delhi spends around 100 crore of rupees every year on desilting, and nobody is willing to let it go. So there are other extraneous factors which we all know. So I'm just looking at the bigger picture. I'm not specifically saying that the rainwater harvesting per se is bad. It has to be done properly. It has to be done knowingly what we want to gain and how much we are gaining through that action. That is what my major emphasis was on. Yeah, your question, what you are saying, see, when you are looking at the morphological aspects which you are raising, see, the morphology of our rivers, that is something which is a natural process. So when you induce some mining, then you are trying to give it some trend which might not be natural. So if you are over digging, then it is going to have the different flow mechanism, and then it is going to have either erode the thing or silt up some of the areas which are. But I am feeling that the question which is being raised, that when you are trying to regenerate through this mining and the controlling of the mining is a separate issue. Wells are not getting the water from the river. No, that is not true, because the level of the river is much lower. All the wells which are there, they are at a higher level. You are getting the dug well water because of the fact that there's a groundwater there. The moment the groundwater goes down, the dug well is going to dry up.
I agree with Professor Gosai. So we have complicated stream aquifer interaction. So that depends on where we have, say, groundwater level and what is level in the river stream. So a localized mining that will only disturb how, say, groundwater interacting with stream, and that is only a temporary phenomena. So again, after, say, one season, then again that part will be aggregated, and then somewhere it will be silting. So after, say, 1 or 2 years, again your bed level will be even.
Yeah, for sediment mining, yes. So wherever sediment mining is happening, it's true that yeah, its action is irreparable. So because there are the fundamental gaps are there. First thing is that none of the river system we have the bed load sediment transport measurement. Actually, the whole thing is about the, no, let me finish and then after. So what is needed is that understanding of equilibrium between water and sediment load. But whatever data is there, it is the suspended load data. The suspended load data during flood time period, it goes away. But what remains in the channel is the bad load data set. But bad load data set is not there. So those basic equations or those sound scientific understanding of that sediment transportation that includes the erosion and deposition process is not there in the system. Hence, whatever the assumptions are there, they are not able to explain that what will happen after the sediment mining. That is the one thing. Second thing is that whatever sediment mining has been allowed, nobody is going to, or it is very difficult to monitor that how much sediment is going to be eroded or going to be removed. So whatever the allocation has been made, if the more amount of sediment will move, so whatever understanding is there, that is also not sufficient. Hence, wherever the sediment mining is going on, reverse morphology or reverse system has been degraded significantly. Yes, you are also correct that the groundwater has also affected. There are also many examples across the world where groundwater level has also been affected. And as yes, Professor Gosai has suggested, that once you remove this water, then river water will go down, and hence the connection of river water and groundwater will also affect it. Then ultimately, groundwater will start losing the water to river system, and then ultimately will gain. And there are a number of other side effects are there. So sediment mining is a major problems, and then there's a lack of data set. There's a lack of those. Yeah, basic what I guess scientific understanding is lacking. We have some models, but unless we will not provide the correct data set to the model will not provide the correct results. So this is where the gaps are there. So I think this is about the mining. And what are the other questions? Yeah, what should we call? So, so yeah, this is my viewpoint that water, like whatever the natural resources are there, water, air, or like basic needs, it is that the elected government has to provide the things. How to provide, that is depend, and it has to be provided. Like many times it comes that technology and democracy, whatever the technological advancement is there, it should reach up to the end point of the system. Like poorest people should get the thing. So how to provide the tax like water tax system, how much subsidy should be provided, to whom to provide, these are the details which that could be done. But yes, with some amount of water tax, yeah, the number should be there. But we should not, or there should not be any encouragement for the private sector to sold the water. Whenever we go outside India in the Western countries, then we can use the tap water. You have to drink the water. But if we go in the market, then then the water bottles are also there in the market. It means that things are available, but it is not needed. But like here in most of the cases, it is needed. Either you have to have RO or you have to purchase the water bottle. So coming to your question to end this part, yes, this water tax should be allowed, should be provided, because yeah, everything will not be free. Yet has been done, but it should be, but should be affordable to all of them. So then accordingly it can be defined.
Well, when you talk about a water body like any river, Indian river, all Indian rivers are like the morning somebody was mentioning about European rivers. Actually, they are literally like nalas compared to many of the Indian rivers. Huge. We are talking about 2,000, 3,000 kilometer long stretches. And if you want to take a look at the entire health of that river in terms of the quality, a lot of people have already talked about the water quantity. If you want to look at the quality of that, it cannot be done by any single individual. It has to be a pre-planned effect. In fact, when the morning, the inaugural session, I just mentioned one thing, that it needs a very strong policy. From top to bottom, there has to be a very strong order. That there has to be some policy level decision that this has to be done. Because majority of the people may have good intention of not spoiling the water quality, but they may still do it because they really do not know what they are doing or what is the better way of doing it things. Okay, so that'll happen in any country when especially in a country like India. So for a specific query you are talking about is IIT's own role. See, IIT is a collection of scientists or engineers who are actually working on various aspects of these river water. Similarly, we have other institutions also. So collectively, we can share our knowledge regarding whatever we find and whatever is our experience with respect to what can be implemented in terms of actual quality improvement of the water. Okay, it is not a, you cannot do you cannot actually treat one part of the river and hope that the entire river will not get affected. Everywhere you need to have a much larger vision, and it needs a massive effort, but it is not impossible, because the similar effort has actually been done in other countries. Even in India, some of the stretches we have done it. It is not impossible, but what is required is a very strong executive action which tells the people what are the things you can do, what you cannot. I am not saying that we turn it into a police state. No, that is not the idea. But at least we should tell, when with respect to the river and the way we use the river, there has to be clear-cut policies where certain things, if they are not good, you should tell them it is not good to do it. Nothing should come in between that. So that requires a policy thing. And IIT we had been doing a lot of work on improving trying to see what are the different technological options that we have to improve the quality of the water. But doing something in the laboratory and finding a solution for a given problem is one thing. When you want to implement it on a scale, and that too, that of an entire stretch of river, the two are slightly different. So the implementation is always a problem. Knowledge, I don't think that the knowledge is really a problem when it comes to quality improvement of the water in not only Yamuna, whether it is Yamuna or Ganga. We had, on paper you read what was done, what was the vision when we started with the Ganga Action Plan 1 or 2 or Yamuna Action Plan or any of the other one. There is nothing wrong in that. You cannot find any fault with that. The entire fault is once you come down to the basics of actually doing it on the law. Then there are a lot of things which are not done the way it should be done.
I think as a matter of right, we have as a society right to the water as we have the right to air. So there's no doubt about that. But if you go back in Delhi, I remember when I was a child, I used to come to Delhi and there were hand pumps. They were operative and you used to get the water from the hand pump and drink it. There was no problem. So why we have lost that kind of character in Delhi? Because the pollution. Because we started supplying water to the localities, but didn't give an equal emphasis on how the sewage has to be handled. So with the result, the sewage is flowing into the natural drains, and from there it is also going to the groundwater. And now there is a situation where the amenity also has gone down. People cannot drink that water which is even having a slight level of pollution. But still, you will be surprised to know that many people are still dependent on water which is the groundwater directly coming out. On the other extreme, we have colonies which are getting good water from DJB, and the TDS is less than 150. Still, they are using RO. Despite the fact that the Supreme Court has said that no RO to be used if the water is good. But we have in our minds that yes, we want to be as safe as possible, and we don't want to take any chance. We want to invest more money. And with the result, 40% of the water is being wasted. Any RO, the 40% is reject, which is not used. People might say that yes, they are using for cleaning utensils and all those things. Nobody does that. So I think is all the factors put together. If you see, as a society, we are not putting pressures. We are not putting the pressure on the people who are managing the show. And is important for us to understand what as individual we are doing wrong. As I was just mentioned, that many people even don't know that you have put your rooftop connection to the sewer line without realizing that what is the implication of that. So I think is important to have such discussions, but at the same time come out with the strategy that how we negotiate or how we impact our outcome of our discussions with the people like DJB, who are the managers of water as well as sewage. You'll be surprised, DJB has punctured 300 locations of sewers. You're not surprised, but even one puncture has been done in the drain which is going past and through our campus. Even with my connections at the DJB level, 15 years have passed. That has not been amended. I don't know what to say, but what we need to really put pressure, we have to find ways and means by which people like us can reveal all these things, that this is what is the ground reality. But then what? What is the next step? We have to. So you have to unite there is a difference between us and the developed countries. When in developed countries, if something happens which concerns the society, they stand up. We don't bother.
यमुना हमारी जीवन रेखा है। इस तकनीकी सत्र के माध्यम से हमने यमुना नदी में प्रदूषण के गंभीर प्रभावों पर गहन चर्चा की। इस सत्र में हमने प्रदूषण के कारणों, परिणामों और समाधान पर विस्तार से चर्चा की। प्रदूषण के कारण यमुना की जल, पारिस्थितिक तंत्र एवं जनजीवन पर पड़ने वाला प्रभाव चिंताजनक है। हमें एकजुट होकर वैज्ञानिक उपायों और सार्वजनिक जागरूकता के माध्यम से इस संकट से निपटने के प्रयास करने होंगे। व्यक्तिगत रूप से मेरा मानना है कि राजनीतिक इच्छा शक्ति, जन भागीदारी, वैज्ञानिक उपाय और एक निश्चित डेडलाइन इस मिशन की कामयाबी के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। मुझे विश्वास है कि सत्र से प्राप्त जानकारी हमें इस दिशा में सार्थक कदम उठाने के लिए प्रेरित करेगी।